Ten Hag's tactics were brave against Xavi's Barcelona. Manchester United's offensive structure was with Wan-Bissaka, Varane and Shaw at the back. Casemiro was in an advanced position. However, one of the strengths of Barcelona is their high pressure. For that reason, Ten Hag moved Fred, Weghorst and Sancho near Bruno, Rashford and Malacia, because when Man United tried to play out from the back, Barcelona pressed with 4 players and many times they couldn't build up from the back. For that reason, De Gea had to play long balls and usually he tried to play it with Weghorst. As he was playing as a number 10, Rashford fixed to the center backs and he had to win the duels against Kessie, but also Man United's offensive structure helped them to have numerical superiority for the second balls. Barcelona's offensive structure was with 4 at the back. Koundé and Alonso were the center backs, Araujo and Alba were the full backs. In the midfield, De Jong was the defensive midfield, the offensive players were Kessie and Pedri. Up front, Raphinha was on the right and Gavi was on the left. Nevertheless, Manchester United's pressure were clever and smart. Since the advanced block pressed on Barcelona's half, the strikers were supported by Fred and Weghorst, while 5 players waited on their half, but Casemiro's work was to mark Barcelona's free player between the lines. Weghorst and Fred were aggressive in this phase and they usually forced Barcelona's midfielders to make a mistake, where we can see that Kessie played a poor pass to the wings, Koundé and Araujo are far from the ball and Sancho was faster. When Man United recovered the ball near Barcelona's box, they had 4 players that were free and running to the box. In order to overcome Man United's pressure, Xavi moved De Jong between the center backs because he had great skills to get right off his mark, but also he is patient to look for the right pass, since he knows that Kessie can receive the ball because he's surrounded by 3 players, but also he knows that on the left side Alonso is free. Therefore, with a great movement, he got right of Bruno Fernandes and played with Alonso. As Man United's pressure was broken, Barcelona could have numerical superiority on the left side, since Lewandowski moved to this side to create a 3 versus 3, but also Alonso took the ball to this zone and they had numerical superiority. Another way that Barca used to progress to Man United's half was through long balls to the wings, because they moved 4 players against Man United's defensive line. Raphinha was wide and this created a space between Malacia and Shaw. However, Pedri was covered by Casemiro. Nevertheless, on the other side, Gavi attracted to Wan-Bissaka and this created a space for Jordi Alba. For that reason, Wan-Bissaka had to leave Gavi free and go over Jordi Alba. But this was dangerous because Gavi was a free player between the lines. Therefore, it was important the work of Bruno Fernandes and Fred without the ball, because they had to drop back quickly to cover Gavi. On the second half, Barca took the lead by Alonso. It was a corner kick and Manchester United had 3 players in the first post, Casemiro and Bruno, and the rest of players were performing individual marking. Malacia was over Alonso and Fred over Koundé. However, we'll see that Malacia didn't see Alonso's run and he lost him. Therefore, he ended up behind Fred when Malacia realized it was late and De Gea couldn't save it. However, Man United reacted quickly. They pressed high and forced Barcelona to play long. Varane recovered the ball and played with Casemiro. Meanwhile, up front, Fred was pressing to De Jong, Rashford was over Alonso and Sancho over Koundé. Casemiro had a space to turn and look for the right space. He knows that Fred has a space in front of him, but he waited for the right movement because De Jong was following Fred. However, Fred stopped his steps and turned to run to the free space, while Alonso and Jordi Alba are trying to get back to their positions. Alonso ran to cover the space, but this created a space for Rashford, and also on the opposite flank, Sancho had the same space. Fred waited for Rashford's run, and it was a 1-to-1 situation, because Rashford had to beat Alonso with his speed. He managed to overcome him, and we can see that Rashford doesn't have a good angle to score, but he put the ball on the net between Ter Stegen and the first post. After the goal, Ten Hag's players kept pressing high. The three strikers were over Barcelona's defenders. Fred and Weghorst were over Kessie and De Jong, because they were ready to steal the ball and start the offensive transition. When this happened, they had a 3 versus 3 in the final third, where Bruno and Rashford tried to be wide to create more space for themselves. Therefore, they received with space and Rashford gained a corner kick, which will start the second goal. Luke Shaw played a short corner kick with Marcus Rashford. This created a 2 versus 1 against Raphinha. Barca left space behind him. Raphinha oriented his body to cover the pass to Luke Shaw. Nevertheless, Rashford was smarter and made a great flick to overcome Raphinha. All Man United's players are covered, so Rashford knows that a strong pass will complicate Barcelona's defenders. He tried to play it with Bruno Fernandes, but it was deflected on Koundé. Barcelona's second goal came thanks to their pressure. Ansu Fati moved to the central channels, and this created a 4 versus 3 for Barcelona. Shaw played with Casemiro, but he was pressed by Gavi. Shaw tried to move forward to the space that Casemiro tried to direct the pass, but this also left Raphinha free. When Koundé intercepted the ball, Barca had a 4 versus 4 in the final third. Casemiro was between Varane and Wan-Bissaka to cover Lewandowski. Fred and Weghorst are dropping back, but this leaves the space for Koundé. On the right side, Raphinha is free because Shaw is with Gavi. When Malaysia dropped back, he didn't go close to Raphinha. He kept moving to his box, and also Sancho was not fast to go over Raphinha. No one of these players tried to cover the cross from Raphinha. Lewandowski is between Casemiro and Varane. Raphinha was smart to play a fast cross to Lewandowski, but nor Varane or Lewandowski couldn't deflect that, and it was the second goal for Barcelona. Leave your thoughts about Erik Ten Hag's tactics and Xavi's. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by Mètrica Sports, the fundamental tool for every coach and analyst. Create and manage all your video analysis in one platform. Use coupon NasirSalad at checkout for a 10% discount.